What's up, guys? Ohio Dave here. This week's topic is going to be about birth control. The first thing I would like to say is, as a hunter, birth control for deer, it does work. I'm going to be honest, it does work on fenced-in and caged animals, basically, in very small square mile areas, or islands. Fire Island, it worked there too. Yeah. Basically just places where the deer can't get out and escape. It does not work for wild free-ranging deer. Even Paul Curtis, a wildlife specialist from Cornell University, states that it is effective in small square mile ranges where the deer are not wild and free-ranging. It does not work for wild deer. It has not been proven to work on wild deer that are free-ranging and can't wander in large areas. It is too hard unless you were to trap them and then inject them, which that is still, the deer can die from the trauma and stress of being caged and trapped. So that doesn't work because you're possibly killing the deer anyway. And that's what these antis don't want to do. So that kind of shoots their plan out of the water there. Not only that, but this birth control, as far as careforanimals.org, this is according to a Care for Animals Association thing, says that the birth control dart it does have side effects. It has painful effects to the areas where the injection is made, and it can cause bone problems in the deer skeleton, the bone problems it can give them. After 3 years of a city or town in Connecticut, the people were not happy with the birth control results. What they wanted to happen did not happen. So what did they do? They had hunters come in, and what took 3 years for the birth control to try to do, it took 6 days for the hunters to reduce the herd 92%. Now, you're paying how much money for this birth control that was not working for 3 years? You let hunters in there for 6 days, and they do the job just fine. Seems like a common sense question to me, but a lot of people think it's violent and they don't want it. They don't want the hunting. But as far as cost efficiency, I mean, if you were to ban hunting and put this birth control into play, I don't think people realize what would happen to all your hunting apparels and hunting companies, all your camouflage, Realtree, Mossy Oak, all your tree stand companies. All tree stand companies would go out. Your tree step companies, bow manufacturers, Matthews, Hoyt, Bowtech, God knows how many others, gun manufacturers, bow shops, gun shops, Gander Mountain stores possibly. I mean, just a lot, hundreds of thousands of jobs would be lost. Hunters give more than $20 billion to the economy every year. That just gone. And what result of this? Taxes are going up. How are they going to pay for all this birth control, the vaccine, which, by the way, costs, the research I looked for, it costs, or the research I looked up, it costed, the cheapest one I found was an anti-hunter. They put it on YouTube. I don't know whether it's true or not. It said $66 per deer. But every other website I looked, as far as the birth control websites, was about $1,000. The lowest one said between $500 and $1,000. So you're looking at, from all the websites I could find, I looked up, about $1,000 per deer for this. And the only way they're going to pay for this is taxes to rise. Your taxes are going to rise, yet you're going to have hundreds of thousands of people out of jobs, and a lot less money going into the economy from hunters for the wildlife. Hunters donate millions of dollars to the wildlife associations to help the wildlife. That's lost. So now, because of hunting, you don't have the support for the wildlife as it was before. You don't have the money going into the economy. Stock markets, all the stocks that people are invested in for these hunting companies are going to, obviously, they're going to disintegrate and crash. They're going to be gone. I mean, this is overall, as far as financially, a very, very bad outcome. I mean, jobs are lost. We're back to people not being able to put food on the table to support their families. They're back to people not being able to keep their electric on, not being able to keep their gas on, not being able to pay their water bill, not being able to pay their house payment and mortgage payment, can't feed their kids. I mean, do we really want that again? We're just now pulling out of a recession. I'm not saying this would be so traumatic that it would put us back in a recession, but a lot of jobs would be lost, and jobs are still hard enough to find. And I mean, you want, a lot of people think it's very violent, hunting should be abolished, and this birth control should be put into play when it doesn't work. It's proven not to work on wild deer. Does on average have, 1.7 fawns per doe is what the average is. Now, I'm going to wing some numbers out here at you. Try to hang with me. Last year there was 162,000 does shot in Ohio for the 2008-2009 season. Now, 50,000 of these were archery kills. That's going to be about the same distance as a darting gun that they would inject the deer with for the birth control. So you take those 50,000 for the bow kills, and you make that the darting. You now reduce 85,000 deer that would be there next year if they had the 1.7 fawn ratio, which is what they have on average, 1.75 fawns per doe. You have 85,000 less deer for the next year. If you leave the archery in and don't use the birth control, you have 135,000 less deer for the next year. Now, gun season, there was, between shotgun and muzzleloader season, there was about 100,000 deer taken out. Now, during shotgun and muzzleloader season, there was about 100,000 deer harvested on top of that, which if you take the 1.7 deer fawn rate and you add that to the 100,000, that goes to 270,000 less deer from gun season towards the next year. Now you add that 270,000 to the 135,000, you have 407,000 less deer for the following year, which if you had the birth control, you would be at 85,000 around less deer. So there is a big difference in here between the birth control and the hunting as far as bringing down the population. On top of this, how are they going to, when they put this birth control into effect, are they going to be able to tell you when somebody is allowed on your property? Is this going to turn into more government control? I mean, they're obviously going to be able to have to be on private property if they want to put this birth control into effect. So do they knock on my door and say, this date, this date, this date, and this date, someone is going to be here to inject this birth control into the deer? And do I get a choice? What if I don't want anybody on my property ever? There is people out there that don't want anybody on their property. I don't know why we're even discussing that anyway, because the USDA even says that it cannot reduce a herd to a healthy size. The biologists and ecologists still say hunting is the best source of population control and managing the deer. And another thing the anti-say, they argue, is hunting is not a good solution because it has to be done year after year. Well, the birth control has to be done year after year. But as far as economically, financially, what works the best to control the deer, it's hunting. The birth control doesn't work. It doesn't. Not for wild deer. Thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Check out my other videos in the More From Hunter Extreme 07 on the sidebar over there. And thanks.